It's taken me a while to get to Riki Oh. For what reason? I don't know. I remember watching half the first OVA to review it back in like 2019, and almost 5 years later, here we finally are. The Riki Oh franchise has a little bit more depth to it than your average trashy OVA. And trashy may not be applicable to this, as it is one of the better, lower budget stories in cheap action flicks. Still not the best, but seeing Riki Oh restored a feeling in me of a place nostalgic of one of those first experiences I had several years ago when I first started watching this particular niche of anime. Actually, Riki Oh may be one of the OVAs that often get recommended among the top tier retro anime action stories regarding a strong male fighter protagonist, especially when you throw the word underrated at the end of the sentence. The OVAs are broken into two different stories, the first one dropping in '89, covering the prison arc story from the manga. Welcome to Hell, the name given to one of the prisons in the network of prisons in the JP, which stands for Japan Prison Industry. What's going on here is pretty much politics, almost business even, as they need inmates to stay in the system to prevent a reduction in revenue. This is similar to what hip-hop music has been manipulated and used for in America for the past few decades now. But, that's another conversation on a different channel. Yeah, there are 4 blocks being run by a different volatile warden for each ward. And collectively, these guys are known as the Gang of 4. And their job is pretty much to maintain disorder inside of the prison. Now, Riki has found himself in there, and that's what makes... As a matter of fact, he came in there purposely. He said he wanted to see it for himself or whatever, but yeah, he found himself in there, and it makes for a fairly interesting epic. I would say Riki is a pacifist at heart, but surface level he's definitely not that when pushed to a certain level. It's not that he's the most righteous dude, but he possesses a core that leans towards a positive moral compass. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice I just ran in a circle saying that he's not a pacifist, implying that he could be quite violent, but I'm also saying he has a warm, centered core. The same way you're confused with how I'm describing this is how I was confused trying to figure out what side of the tracks this dude's brain operates from. At times he'll just blow somebody's head in, and other times he does things that suggest that he believes in being good and doing the right thing by people. So in this prison, Riki finds himself having to kill people in the process of trying to combat corruption. These little instances of him killing or fucking up gang leaders or disturbing the flow of the correctional officers and higher ups doing their dirt has made him an antagonist to the authorities in the prison. In the first OVA, people are constantly being sent to deal with this dude, and that individual is defeated every time, with Riki walking away with some kind of good Samaritan victory. There does come a point where he does take a little L though, but that's it. The reason they don't really mess with him like that in there is cause his attitude and lack of falling in line with the evils intimidates the authorities, cause it can inspire the other inmates to start acting up and pushing back also, which ultimately happens towards the end of the first OVA. There's plenty of fucked up shit that happens throughout the anime that you don't have to worry about being bored or trekking through the story or anything. It's constantly having people suffer through the most brutal acts of violence. People kill themselves, the things they do trying to send Riki to the real hell. It's all messed up. However, you should know the story still leaves a lot to be desired, but as long as you drag your feet enough to follow the story, the action will be more than enough to bubble over your enjoyment levels. Yeah, that was OVA 1. Riki, what's up with Riki Oh? He has a very solid background behind him. Only child, rich merchant father, good mom. So if you watch the anime, you'll realize she ain't all that good. How did he end up like this? What's his story? That question luckily leads us to the purpose of the second OVA, 1990's Child of Destruction. This breaks down the history of his childhood, the tragedies of what went down with his family, detailing events regarding his parents, brother. Yeah, he's a twin and his bro has a mark on his hand, kind of like how he has that 6-point star. Actually, the brother's mark is a swastika. Being stuck in the prison the whole time with the first OVA kind of had my imagination imprisoned in some kind of way, as I wanted to see Riki leave and engage in the world. So when this second story perfectly comes in and takes it to the woods and all of that in a rural area on some backpack type shit that Riki is on, it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, but he's journeying to go find the brother he was separated from young, and I know you already know what's in store along the way. What I found with the second OVA is that it is much more dramatic and at times even more philosophical than the first one as far as storytelling goes. Like the opening scene with the baby Riki and his bro and mom and all of that, and the events leading up to the intro sequence, that was very philosophical in a way with some of what the guy was saying about destiny and all of that. Unfortunately, it falls slightly below the first one all across the board, from plot to enjoyability to action and adventure. I found myself not caring about much. I wasn't as invested in learning about Riki's past at that point because the setup was mediocre. I didn't care for the characters they had brought into the story. The setting fell off as quick as it attempted to create a cool little world. So when it comes to the second one, I recommend you set your expectations lower. There is a flashback memory though where Riki went to this fight, to the death tournament thing. Actually, that's pretty much a good chunk of the OVA. Now, that was actually pretty crazy. And I guess now is a good time to segue into this topic, but the fight choreography for both of these episodes is what I call a Fist of the North Star light style, where it had that same grittiness of how characters damn near explode or whatever. Riki will make a move and then walk away, and then their face will start to shift up or whatever and blood up when they get hit, but it stays within the realms of what I guess you can call closer to reality. Definitely one of the better ones when it comes to the retro OVA fights. When watching this, you could tell they definitely really were aiming to attract young men who are in that shonen seinen phase and want to see blood and fists, cause it doubled down on that right there. I also dipped my toe into the live action film for Riki Oh, a Hong Kong adaptation called The Story of Riki. I looked into it real quick and looked out of it even quicker. Like the video, comment down below what y'all want to see next. I'm out. Thanks for watching. Anime back when.